Further notice, this meeting will no longer be broadcast live, but it may be watched when the show is replayed on YouTube. Members of the public who wish to participate in the meeting may do so in the following manner. In person at the Rock Walk room located on the second floor in the Town Hall, 26 Wood Street, Plymouth, Mass. Note the occupancy limit of the room may reduce the number of attendees that we can accommodate. Looks like we have a few seats left. Also, you can participate by joining remotely. The meeting ID, passcode, and a link to join remotely is on the agenda. You can also send any comments or questions that pertain to a current agenda item to publichealth@plymouth-ma.gov. They'll be read on the air and answered by the Board of Health as practicable. If time doesn't permit answers during the meeting, responses will be sent by email as soon as possible. So we first have to make sure that everyone is connected okay, from the board. Lorenzo, can you hear us all right?
Okay.
Yes, okay. And I guess, Madison, you're there too, I see. You can hear us, you should be, yes. Okay, so the first item is going to be approval of the minutes from the 4th of December and also from the 19th of February. We'll do them one at a time because different members were present at each of the meetings. The meeting of December 4th, does anyone have changes, corrections? No. Lorenzo, anything that you saw?
I do not. No changes.
Meg, you saw nothing. I think I had one change. Oh, yeah. Under chairperson's announcements, there's something particularly that refers to something that Karen Keene talked about livestock regulations. I listened to the meeting. The only thing I said on the chairman's announcements was I don't have any further announcements. So that's easy. Just need a motion to accept the minutes as amended for the December 4th, 2024.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? Then I'll just call the roll. Lorenzo, yes or no?
Yes.
Meg, yes or no?
Yes.
Amy, yes or
Yes.
no? Myself, yes. The 4 members present, all voted in favor. And I believe all of us were present at that meeting. Okay, the other meeting minutes we have to do is the 19th of February. Again, does anyone have corrections or changes to the minutes? Meg,
I wasn't present.
you are present. Lorenzo, do you have anything?
No.
Okay, I do. Under chairperson's announcement, status of hybrid meeting format, NDCAP update. It states Dr. Parkman shared an update on the radioactive wastewater that was left in Holtec. That being, and it says 800 of 1,000, it should read 868,000, 868,000 gallons. And 2 months earlier, there were 915,000 gallons, which means 47,000 gallons were evaporated into the air. I have nothing else. If no one else does, I need a motion to approve the minutes from the 19th of February.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Oh, you can second it. If
You
can
weren't
second the
present?
motion, unless you want Lorenzo to second it.
Lorenzo, why don't you second it just?
I'll second it.
Okay. I'll call the roll. Lorenzo, yes or no?
Yes.
Meg, since you were present, you can just abstain or?
Abstain, yeah.
Okay. Amy?
Yes.
Myself, yes. So the 3 who were present at that meeting and are present tonight, all approved. So both of the minutes have been approved. Next item of business is the septic variance request from Niles Zager. Is he with us or online?
Will Connolly from Zenith Consulting Engineers here.
Okay. You can proceed with the presentation unless you'd like us to show it on the screens.
Yeah, I can screen share if you'd like.
Yes, please do.
See here. All right, can everyone see that now?
Yes.
So the site is 51 Shore Drive. There's an existing 4-bedroom house on site with a failed septic, which is located up to the front here. We're proposing a 1,500-gallon microfast tank and a stone and pipe leaching field. As you can see, we're extremely limited with the amount of space we have here. We have the water service coming in the front. There's a driveway, property lines, and then you have the house and the raised deck. So we're asking for a few local upgrades for reduction between the leaching field and the property line, which is the right of way. Also, the setback between the microfast tank and the property line. It's really the only place for the tank to go, over on the side here where the existing one is. We're also asking for a reduction in the size of the leaching field. Again, just given the limited space, that's the reason for that request. And then a reduction in the depth of material from 4 feet to 3 feet. We dug one hole in the back and one hole in the front, and the soils were very consistent. We had about 3 feet of a loamy sand up top, which we got a good perk rate. And then the stuff below it was just unperkable. We got a silt loam. So I think that's about it. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, well, why don't we ask board members first if they have any questions? Amy?
No,
No.
do neighbors need to be notified in this case?
I think there is
There's one, they were notified.
one abutter.
Is there anyone here that's about this? No, okay. They were notified.
There's no one online that's an abutter that wants to say anything? It's not. Okay, Lorenzo, do you have anything?
So there's a reduction in the size of the leaching field. What was the leaching field before?
So since we went with the microfast unit, the advanced treatment, I think it's actually in their approval that you can go up to 50% reduction in the size. So before, the required was about 600 feet, and we provided about 300 square feet. But
So
that is
you're
in their
reducing it from 595 to 300 square feet.
correct.
Okay.
It's in the remedial use approval, just with the extra treatment that it gets. Yeah, we do this quite often on sites where, like this, where there's really just not much wiggle room as far as the size of the septic goes.
Okay. And then Barry, I don't know, Dr. Potvin, I don't know if you're going to ask, but take some of your thunder. What was the department's recommendation on this?
Well, I was first going to ask a question, then I'll ask Karen for the department's recommendation. If that's okay. So as I looked at the plans, a couple of things popped out that I noticed. One is, I assume the existing system is a septic, not a cesspool system. Is that correct?
I believe it's a leaching pit, because they have a tank where the proposed tank is, and then they have a pit out front there, kind of in the same area that we're proposing the leaching field.
Oh, okay. And it is on town water, I see. So there's no well involved?
Yes. Yeah, this whole area is on town water, I believe.
Okay, and that backyard area, I noticed there is an existing concrete pad. But it looked to me like there was quite a bit of available space in the back of the home. Was there any consideration given to putting the systems in the backyard? They couldn't.
Yeah, well, the main reason was just to save the need for a pump chamber, just the added cost and maintenance. So if we put it in the back, we would have had to pump it uphill. And I think we still would have needed a reduction in the size, just given, there's still some limitation in space in the back there.
It just looked like, you wouldn't need as many variances if it was in the backyard. In terms of setback distances.
Yeah, I think constructability was also a concern. Just getting machines back there, it's really difficult to access. Just given the amount of room on the sides of the house.
Okay, unless anyone else has questions, I'd ask for the department's recommendation.
I had the same question, Dr. Coffin, about moving the location away from where it is now and putting it in the back, but due to the grading that's in that area, it is exceptionally difficult not only to build it, but then actually to maintain it. So in light of that, the department's gonna recommend approval as submitted.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Any further questions, Lorenzo?
Just how many bathrooms are in this home? I know that's 4 bedrooms, but actual bathrooms that are.
Let's remember that bathrooms have nothing to do with Title V. It's bedroom count. So you can answer the question if you want, but it's not relevant to what's being asked.
Yeah, it's just a question.
Yeah, I don't know, because we don't usually worry about that. Yeah, because we size it based off the bedroom count.
Well, there's 4 bedrooms, you could have at least minimum 4 people in this house using the bathroom facilities, right?
Lorenzo, usually they count each bedroom would be 2 people per bedroom. It's just the way the DEP calculated all of the numbers, so it's 110 gallons per day per bedroom. So that's kind of what the Title V goes by.
Right, so there's gonna be 8 people using this, potentially up to.
Right. Or there might be
It
one.
could be more. It could be more than that. If the family has 12 people in it, the family will have 12 people in it.
Yeah,
Sleeping will get a little tight.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I've seen houses with 3 bedrooms and 12 people and houses with 5 bedrooms and 2 people. So it is just the way that the sizing goes with Title V is really the only way they could, I think, legitimately count is by bedrooms.
Right, and I think there's a factor of safety built into that, as far as the gallons per day go.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm just used to, I lived on a septic in Illinois and it wasn't on
Oh, isn't that funny?
bathrooms, so. Tomato.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, anything else from you, Megan?
No.
Amy?
No, thank you.
No, so at this point, I'd ask for a motion from one of the board members.
I'll make a motion to accept it as presented. And I'll second.
Okay. Then I would just call the roll again. Lorenzo, yes or no?
Yes,
Meg,
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Unanimous of the 4 board members present. Thank you very much for coming in.
All right, thank you all for your time. Have a nice night.
thank you.
Next item on our agenda is a grease trap variance for Galway Pub.
Yes, I'm here.
Please come up to the table so that the owl device can see you and hear you.
You can sit.
If you could just say your name for the record, please.
Marjorie Roney.
Okay. Are you the owner of?
Yes, I am.
Perfect, thank you.
Do you want me to read it?
What?
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Marjorie is here due to the fat soil and grease trap
Sorry.
upgrade that we have implemented back in 23. Deadline for that was 12/31/24. The Galloway Pub, we are recommending that they do get the variance and not have to install an automatic grease trap. Our team did do a site visit, that's sewer division, engineering, plumbing, and public health. She does not generate any kind of grease, everything is just heat and serve, all on disposable servingware, paper plates and whatnot. So really there is no need for a grease trap, so we are recommending that waiver.
Okay. Do any board members have questions about this variance request for the grease trap?
Do they have a three-bay sink?
Yeah,
And there's no grease trap attached to that?
no.
Okay.
There really is nothing, just nothing.
And does that I'm assuming that matches plumbing code?
Mhm.
Huh, interesting. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
I don't have any questions.
Lorenzo, do you have anything?
No questions.
Okay. Nor do I. So in that case, I'll just ask for a motion from a board member.
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Is there a second?
Okay.
I'll call the roll once again. Lorenzo, yes or no?
Yes.
Meg,
Yes.
Amy?
Yep.
Myself, yes. It's approved unanimously by the 4 board members present. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thanks.
There you go. Good night, guys.
Thank you.
Nice.
You too.
The next one is a restrict variance for the Ansberg Chilosee Butcher Shop. Eric, you're online with us, I guess. Are you there?
Yeah, Eric is there. Eric, you just need to unmute yourself. There you
That
go.
works.
Yeah, you're all set, Eric.
This is my
Um,
first Skype, so
It's okay. So again, Eric is asking for a variance to installing an automatic grease trap. At one point, they were doing catering services. They're not doing that anymore. They really don't have any kind of prepared food. So they're not putting much thought into the sewer system. Again, our team did go out, conduct a site visit. Their grease trap is pumped every 3 months right now because it's just not full enough. I did confirm that with their grease trap hauler, which is Bay State Sewage. They did send a letter confirming that there is only about 7 gallons that they are pulling out of there every 3 months. So in this particular case, they're asking for 2 variances. The first being to not install an automatic grease trap with the caveat that they will be putting an additional passive grease trap connecting to their dishwasher. So they have 2 kitchens. One grease trap is on their 3-bay, the other one would be on a 2-bay plus dishwasher in the basement. And then the other variance being requested is that the grease trap is only being pumped every 3 months as opposed to what the regulations state, which is every month. So we got 2 for on that one, and the health department does recommend the variance.
Thank you. Again, does anyone have questions? Lorenzo, do you have any questions about this?
No. No questions.
Okay, Meg,
No.
Amy?
No.
Myself, no. I just need a motion again,
I'll make a motion to accept it as written.
okay?
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded. I'll call the roll. Lorenzo, yes or no?
Yes.
Meg,
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Myself, yes. It's again unanimous approval by the 4 members present. Thank you very much.
Well said, Eric. Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Boy, we're going right on time, almost. Next item of business is actually a public forum. We are going to have to have a vote to open the public forum. So I need a motion by a board member to open the public forum.
You can't open it before 5:25. So if you want to move on to
No.
something else,
Well, the vote is for 5:20, so
yeah, you can't open it till 5:25, so
move on to something else.
we'll go on to something else.
Okay, why don't we then, there's,
We can
things
talk about,
things I see our director's report.
yeah, mine's short, we can go on to that. Just 2 things I want to talk about tonight. One is avian flu. So our numbers from February 26th to 3/4, we had 79 phone calls to the office regarding avian flu. We picked up 54 deceased birds during that week, including 27 additional birds from Long Beach. So we continue to be consistent in the number of calls and pickups that we do for avian flu. Now, the good news is the temperatures are getting warmer. The season usually only lasts till April, so I'm hoping that we see a decline in those numbers, but we haven't yet. And the second thing I want to talk about, which is interesting because we did just have a couple of fats, oils and grease variances requested. is, we have sent out letters of non-compliance to everyone who hasn't got back
How
to
many
us yet.
people?
We have 63 establishments,
Yeah.
but those are people that have not spoken with us
At all.
at all.
Right, right.
There are a lot of people that have said, oh, I'm working on it. So
Yep,
we're
yep.
trying to be very
Yep.
lenient and give grace on that stuff.
That's, yes.
So, they're receiving a $100 violation, which is part of our regulations. So we should be hearing hopefully from those folks when they receive, their letter, which was, sent out tomorrow.
Yeah, it's good.
So I just wanna give a big thanks though to Margaret. It's a lot of work to put that together, and she also, created a spreadsheet so we can keep track of, all of our food establishments. And with grease trap, Paxos and grease compliance, so kudos to Margaret.
And how many food establishments on your list?
Oh, God, I've had so many numbers going. I wanna say probably 150 to start.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say 152,
Yeah, that sounds about right, yeah,
Alright.
so
yeah.
63 is,
Yeah, that's.
That's big.
it's a lot to juggle, especially with Dana being gone for 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And that's it, that's all I have. And we're back on track.
It's surprising there were so many that weren't in compliance.
Really? Thought you knew.
Yeah, it's, well, a couple of things to think about. It is new, like Margaret said, it is an expense. So sometimes, and I think that, and I do think part of this has to do with the fact that a lot of everything we do now is on OpenGov, which I've actually brought this up before. And we have to, even though we're comfortable with it and we're familiar with it, we have to remember that our partners out in, the town are not familiar with it. And I think that we might find that a couple of people have hesitated because they really just weren't comfortable in the process. So I'm hoping that anyone who might be listening will just come forward and we can work with the 60 that we still have.
Mhm.
Other ways to use up another couple of
No, you
minutes.
should do your vote now.
Okay.
Yeah, because by the time we do, it's 5:23, so I think we're okay.
We have to abide by the rules of the
We
law.
have to, we cannot start early. You
Okay,
can start late, but you can't start early.
Can I make a motion to open the public forum around tobacco regulations?
you may.
I will.
Is there a second?
May I second
You may.
that?
Is there any discussion about opening the public forum? Hearing none. Lorenzo, yes or no?
Yes,
Meg,
Yes.
Amy?
Yeah.
Myself, yes. So in order to do this, I have to read the following procedures that we follow for public forums. We've done this before. It's not our first time. So I welcome everybody to the public forum. The members of the Board of Health and the Public Health Department members are present. I don't know if we need to introduce ourselves or not, but you've heard the names being given. So public forums are meant to gather information, comments, and suggestions from the general public, which may be considered in revising the draft of regulatory documents. As such, no motions or votes will be taken on the proposed regulation today. Everyone must wait to be called upon before speaking and shall do so at the table, so the device can record your comments. They're also requested to identify themselves by name, and if it's relevant, the name of the organization or business that they may represent. Each speaker will be allowed a set number of minutes to speak. If more time is needed, a request may be made to the Board of Health, and a vote by majority vote will rule upon the request for additional time. Please refrain from making any repetitive comments and direct all comments or questions to the Board of Health rather than to the other speakers or members of the public. Please also avoid disruptive behavior such as interrupting other speakers, speaking before being recognized, speaking to others while the forum is in progress, including when entering or leaving the room. If time permits, questions from the public or Board of Health members for clarification of comments may be addressed to the speakers. So the reason for this coming before the Board of Health is that there is a set of Board of Health regulations that I believe were put in place by this Board of Health in 2018. I remember the dates correctly. Since that time, a lot of things have changed. And the Massachusetts Association of Health Boards has sent us a model set of new regulations that conforms to the state's regulations. It's identified on terms of the model regulations by color highlighting the ones that are in the state regulations that should be also included in our local regulations. And then there's others that are colored green, which are optional for the local regulations that the Board of Health will have to consider and put in place. So the main things that seem to have changed. When you compare our older set of regulations to the new model from the state officials, is number one, there is a rather serious concern about the use of under tongue or sublingual nicotine patches, which pouches, which are now apparently being used by quite a number of maybe intermediate and also high school students. We have one of our students present this evening, and she has also confirmed that, in fact, there is a number of students that do use these nicotine pouches. The nicotine in the pouches are generally not derived straight from tobacco.
They are not,
They are not.
right, you said generally,
They are
but
not.
they are not.
They are actually abbreviated by non-tobacco nicotine. So it's some sort of synthetic process that produces the nicotine, which goes into the pouches. The pouches generally contain anywhere from 3 up to 20 milligrams of nicotine per pouch. By comparison, a cigarette usually has about 2 to 4. According to surveys that have been done, most students that use these things actually use about 10 pouches per day. So if you do the math, it's a lot of nicotine. The problem, of course, for us is we have strived endlessly to try to protect our students and our young people from becoming addicted to nicotine. That came up before when vaping started. The vaping has sort of tapered off, but this is now seems to have replaced it. So that's one of the concerns. The other concerns primarily revolve around changes to the enforcement and penalties portions of the rules for underage sales of tobacco and tobacco products, and in this case also would be anything derived from nicotine, has been enforced according to the state regulations. The fines follow the state rules, and it was $5,000 for the $1,000. Yeah.
1, 2, and 5.
Yeah, $1,000 for the first violation, $2,000 for the second violation, and $5,000 for the third violation. There are also suspensions of the sales permits that are put in place by this Board of Health within the bounds recommended by the state. We have used those in the rare cases, which we hope we never see again, where the number of violations actually exceed 3. The Board of Health does have the power to permanently revoke the sales permits for tobacco products. That has happened, and we have dealt with that at least once so far. We don't want to do it again. So those are the major changes, I believe. Those of you who have seen the model tobacco regulations, were there any other major changes that you noticed
No,
aside from those?
yeah, no, it was
Yeah.
just the nicotine pouches and then
And
the
the fine
binding
structure.
structure, yeah.
So the fine structure now divides the violations into state violations and also local violations. So there's a whole list contained of the kind of things which in fact might involve things like just not proper signage. Those would be subject to fines much less, which are dictated strictly by the local authorities. So we need public feedback, because we have to consider what to do about this. We have to do something. Certainly anything that we put in place now nearly 7 years ago.
I thought we had done them since then.
The
Yeah, When,
The
we-
reg- the
but
reg-
anyways, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The regulation actually says this regulation shall take effect on December 30th, 2018.
Hmm,
Those are the ones we put in
Hmm.
place.
I thought we had, I
Yeah, we
thought,
have a.
yeah, but anyways,
Yeah.
so this meeting, we're definitely talking about nicotine pouches and finding structure.
Yes,
Well, no, you're not gonna be talking about fine structure because you didn't put that on the agenda. So, but you're gonna be talking about it will be nicotine pouches.
okay,
All right?
we'll talk about nicotine pouches. So, the reasons why we're concerned about that is primarily because of the effect that it could have with nicotine addiction for our younger people in the town. These nicotine pouches are also come in a variety of flavors,
Not in Massachusetts.
but I was about to say.
Oh, sorry.
In Massachusetts, they have banned flavored vape liquids and also flavored nicotine pouches.
Flavored anything, like
Flavored.
wraps can't, blunt wraps can't be flavored, rolling papers can't be flavored.
Yeah, so that is state law now. We don't have to do anything about that.
Mhm.
We just have to make sure that our local regulations do conform to the state regulations.
Mhm.
So the other thing that, we have to probably consider is how many students are actually utilizing these things. And if you look at the last survey that was done, I think about 2 or 3 years ago, about 1.8% of the intermediate and high school students in the country were using these nicotine pouches.
Where's that from?
CDC, National
It's a
Youth
CDC
Tobacco
thing.
Survey.
Okay.
I'm glad you're here. So is there anything else about nicotine pouches that we should see before we should mention before we start taking public comment? Nothing?
Think so.
Okay. Are there people who asked to be recognized to speak about this?
Yes, we have.
Peter here, Peter Brennan? Okay, is Peter Brennan here though? He had asked.
Yeah, he just popped
Oh,
on.
okay. Mr. Brennan had asked.
Now I want $1 million.
And then there were two others too, but I don't know if we just wanna go to Mr. Brennan, because he did ask to speak.
Okay, Mr. Brennan, could you go ahead? We could probably give you maybe 3 minutes. Mr. Brennan, can you unmute yourself, please?
Oh, hey, sorry. Thanks for accommodating. Just wanted to chime in briefly regarding the proposed restrictions on nicotine pouches. I've submitted written testimony. Our group thinks that's a bad idea for a number of reasons. When I think about this, the part that doesn't make any sense to me, why would you want to restrict this to an adult-only facility? Wouldn't you want, say, a smoker, if you're interested in public health, wouldn't you want a smoker to see the other options when they're at the store? That's what the point of sale, when you're going to make the impact that person has another option to use. The FDA has approved nicotine pouches as a safer alternative. So to either limit them to adult-only facilities or restrict the nicotine content level so that they might not be as helpful for, say, somebody that's looking to quit a cigarette habit and move on to something else. They're the target demographic that might want a higher octane pouch, I would think. So we oppose both measures. We don't think these products need to be restricted any further than they already are. Our stores have a great track record for compliance. We card everybody that comes through the door. We scan IDs. And if we don't, then we suffer the consequences. There are penalties in place. The law is very clear, both municipal and state law, as to what happens to our retailers if we don't comply with the law, if we don't check IDs and make sure people are over 21. So why not leave well enough alone, let this new, less harmful product develop, and we will still do our part to keep it out of the hands of kids and anybody that's underage from accessing these products. Open for questions if you have any.
Maybe I should explain the two options that the state gave us on the model tobacco control document. Number one was restricting the nicotine content of the pouches that are offered for sale to, I think they said 6 milligrams. The other option was to simply restrict the sale of the pouches only to like smoking bars.
Or adult only, yeah.
Yeah,
Any
the adult
place
only
like that.
facility. Yeah, I mean, I've read these. They're model regulations. The Mass Association of Health Boards has shopped around to every city in town, and I have testified against them pretty much every time they come out. So, very familiar. I do appreciate you let me know exactly what we were talking about because I did miss the first part of the hearing. But I think that, so on the milligram cap, I would think 6 is a little low. I think that our stores typically, they might go up to 9. There are pouches that are over 9 milligrams. You know, those are fewer than the other brands that typically are 9 and under. So if you're looking for a restriction, I would say a restriction is probably unwarranted because trust me, if you have one of these pouches and it's too strong, then you're probably never going to do another one anyway. So I would think if you're thinking about a restriction, start at 9, not 6. And no, we're very much opposed to restricting to adult only facilities because that would exclude our convenience stores. And we just don't think there's any public health argument for it.
Okay, well, thank you, Peter.
So if I could just jump in 1 second, just for clarification for everyone who's here. You mentioned, Dr. Poffin, that there are 2 things that we can consider, that the board can consider, the 6 milligram and the adults only.
Yeah.
But wouldn't the third possibility also be just a complete ban? Or are they not even giving that as an option?
It
The
was
state of
not,
Massachusetts.
it was not highlighted in the Mara documents.
So tonight, we're talking about 2 particular things. One, selling the item, but limiting it to no more than 6, or limiting it to just adult only shops. Okay,
That seems to be the
Okay.
options we're presented with.
Or do nothing, or leave it out totally.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that could be a third,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
So the other thing that pertained to why the state did that, I believe, is because of, and maybe Devin can check this with me, because I know you've been looking at it too. It appears the FDA has said that the pouches are safer than smoking cigarettes,
They have,
but they have not recommended them as a way to actually stop smoking.
So, I mean, I think that the line is there's no safe nicotine use, period. But they have approved, I think, 20 types of Zyn as a form of harm reduction, right? So it's like for somebody who's, they call them tobacco naive, which is like they haven't ever tried anything, you shouldn't start. But if you are a cigarette smoker and your option is to use a nicotine pouch, it's a favorable option for a cigarette smoker.
And I was on a webinar about this today, the model regs. And I asked Cheryl Sabara why 6 milligrams, and she said that that's the cutoff because the FDA has only approved 2 oral nicotine pouches, which can be no higher than 6 milligrams. So that's what the FDA has approved. But then she also said, as part of that approval, she said these pouches can claim no modified risk or harm reduction. So they can't say that they're less harmful, but we all know that they're less harmful. So, but they can't say it.
Okay,
okay, so 2 other people have requested.
we'll get to, maybe we should alternate between the, well, we'll do the
If
ones
I
that
can
are-
just clarify one thing while you still have me. The Mass Association of Health Boards came out with these draft regs before the FDA decision. And we think it was largely because they don't understand the product. It's been around since 2014, 2015, but it's still largely misunderstood. They saw something that they hoped they could just ban because they don't understand it. And now that more information's come to light, they have not changed their model regs. They're still pushing the same thing. So from my perspective, it doesn't make sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Next speaker.
Stephen Helfer requested. Stephen not here, okay, and the other person that requested ahead of time is Paul Neff.
This gentleman on there, Mr. Pierce.
He requested ahead of time?
Well, no, sorry.
No, I'm going for the people who requested ahead of time.
They get priority.
Yep, they do.
Okay.
Alright, so that's the end of
Okay.
who requested ahead of time.
Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll alternate between people who are present in person and those that are joining us via Zoom. So we'll take the first person in the audience that wishes to speak about this. Please come to the
Sure.
stage.
Peter Belmoni, Japanese package store, lifetime resident of Plymouth. We sell these products, very few, but we do notice that there's a need for people trying to smoke, quit smoking, and as far as option one goes, as far as regulating the nicotine basis, I feel, in my opinion, that really doesn't resolve anything, because you can buy a 6 milligram package and you can take multiple, as many as you want once you buy it. So if you wanted to take 12, you could take it. But, and what I've heard, I have a son in college and a daughter who just graduated. And a lot of these kids that are doing it, and there is a concern for the children, are doing the flavored ones. The flavor, and they're getting them from Rhode Island, Connecticut, and other states that sell the flavored ones. In Massachusetts, we sell, they're not, I've never done them, but they're not, I don't think they're very tasty. They'll see as something that I would enjoy, but they do them for the flavor and for staying awake so they can either study or do more or go out party or whatever they do. So option one, I think regulating it, sure, whatever, regulate it to a certain degree, but I really don't think it solves any problems. It's, at some point, self-responsibility is. Option two, I asked, how many adult stores are there in Plymouth?
Yeah.
I mean, there's 44 licenses, is there? I thought Brennan's was one, they can see.
It's Brennan's, just that. Yeah.
This is
Oh,
Brennan's.
Brennan's is the only one? What about the vape store down by the laundromat?
Do they have a tobacco license too? No, they just do vape.
But that you need the same license for that. don't
No,
we?
you need a separate vape license.
From the
Tobacco.
state, yeah,
Yeah.
You need
but you
multiple
would still
licenses.
need one from
So
here.
what you're doing is restricting, you're taking it away
Yeah.
from 44
Yeah.
licensees in Plymouth, 44 businesses in Plymouth.
At least 42.
Yeah.
40 what?
42.
42,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
who's gonna be able to supply this option? For people who are trying to quit smoking. Yeah, those, I'm not gonna go into the other things, really, but those are the two biggest concerns. It's another regulation that's taken something away from local businesses, that's a legal product, that's bought by adults. And, thank you for hearing.
Thank you. Yes, the other concern is really, as you mentioned, you can use multiples and on the average, according to the survey that they did with the CDC, 10 pouches per day. Even if it's 6.
If it's that big of a concern, then this has to be handled at a state level. Make it but if you limit it in Plymouth, they're gonna go Caldex, straight Plymouth, it's the same thing with the nip. It's do it on a state level, is all I'm asking, put a even playing field out there for all the businesses of Plymouth. Thank you very much for your time.
I agree that, state regulation is far superior, especially if they also ban it for online sales coming into Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Because obviously an awful lot of people that want to get these things, if they want to get flavored products, not only can get it from other towns, not towns, but other states,
Yeah.
they can also get them online.
Yeah.
So it's difficult when you have these things available so easily with online ordering. They do say that they do check if you do an online order, and I tried this myself, although I certainly didn't want them. So I clicked on one of the companies that actually advertises these online. And a little thing came up and said, are you at least 21? Your age will be verified. Like, okay, I'll click on that because I'm certainly more than 21. Nothing else happened. They just showed me all the various products that were available. Now, maybe if I had pursued that and actually tried to purchase it, something else might have happened, but I don't know how on earth they would verify the age.
You have to take what you realize.
We have to worry about Plymouth and the state, and that's, that's what we should be concentrating on, Plymouth and the state. And some of these matters have to be held at a high level, and we have to put more pressure on state legislators, yeah.
Okay, so I think at this point, we should turn it over to someone who wants to address this from our online people who are attending.
It looks like Jay Pierce.
Yeah, Jay Pierce? Go ahead, please.
Good evening, board members. My name is Jason Pierce. I am an employee of Energy North. We operate 2 convenience stores in Plymouth, the Mayflower and the one on Commerce Way, the Hafners. Again, just, want to touch base on a lot of the points that have been brought up, but I just want to kind of reiterate them. The use amongst minors is always a concern, amongst responsible retailers and with everybody. Nicotine pouches, as you mentioned, is only at 1.8% for underage use, which is much lower than any other tobacco product, marijuana, and alcohol. So it really isn't prevalent in schools at this time. And especially in Massachusetts with the unflavored product, it's less prevalent. When it comes to the restriction on milligrams, you had mentioned the amount of milligrams in a cigarette, and I just wanted to clarify that. In a cigarette, the average milligrams of nicotine is between 8 and 12. So, that's the reason for kind of that milligram with the nicotine pouches. And the reason that some of the manufacturers have gone up is because they've considered nicotine pouches to be an alternative for both cigarette smokers, but also moist snuff users. And moist snuff generally runs a little higher in milligram content. But with nicotine pouches, just please keep in mind that the idea for nicotine pouches was to be a safer alternative for moist snuff users and cigarette smokers. And I know that they can't claim that, but again, as the FDA said, it is a safer option over smoking. Nicotine itself is not classified as a carcinogen. So the items and chemicals found in tobacco, basically with cigarettes and moist snuff, and those being cancer-causing agents, nicotine itself is not a carcinogen. These nicotine pouches are 99% pure nicotine salt, which is, as you mentioned, a synthetic. So, again, I know nicotine is an evil, but it is a matter of the lesser of the evils. And for cigarette smokers to be able to transition them and moist snuff users to be able to give them an option to transition from a product that clearly causes cancer and is proven to cause cancer to something of, a lesser harm is always a great option. And to kind of take that away from them, but still have cigarettes in their face, as mentioned before, kind of defeats the purpose of what we're trying to accomplish with improving health, amongst the community. So I hope you take those things into consideration, as you kind of look at this. I know recently Massachusetts just kind of put on the agenda the ability to restrict just the milligrams. I know originally when it came out at the beginning or towards the end of last year, it was a straight pouch ban to only adult facilities, and they changed that option to being a milligram restriction. And I know a lot of towns have taken that option. I know recently towns have set it at 9, being, that's the milligram in cigarettes and also a reduction from what people are getting from moist snuff. So just something to consider, but I hope you consider that option over the ban. I think having that product available to a tobacco user is critical in us taking the next steps to reducing the potential for cancer.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. I should clarify it. I did find online that this is correct. Nicotine is not classified as a carcinogen.
Mm.
There are lots of other carcinogens that are present in tobacco smoke. However, they did classify nicotine as a tumor promoter.
Yes.
Which means that it can encourage the growth of tumor cells.
Yes, no, and that is true. It does. It does enhance cell growth in that sense too. There's a lot of studies out there with nicotine. Right now, actually, if you look at it, the Vanderbilt School of Medicine is actually studying the positives and the benefits of nicotine to help with memory loss, Parkinson's, and they're also studying to see that if it will slow the rate of Alzheimer's.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting information.
Yep, that's at the Vanderbilt School of Medicine. Yeah, so if you want to look at that.
The other thing I think we're worried about is the fact that nicotine taken in excess does have some very harmful effects on health. There's quite a lot of data about that. And of course, it's more of a risk for very, very young people. So that's why people are very concerned about nicotine that are flavored, that any kind of nicotine product that's flavored, that a young child might get their hands on and decide that, oh, this tastes really nice, this is sweet.
Yeah.
And in so doing, would get an awfully, for their age and size, would get an awfully big dose of nicotine that could be very harmful and dangerous.
I completely agree with you. And in some of the things you were mentioning, I think the benefit of Massachusetts having the flavor ban is exactly that. It doesn't, have that enticement to minors. But there was the mention of banning online sales. I will tell you, there are states that have banned age restricted products from being purchased online and shipped into the state. And that may be something that wants to get, passed along. I know South Carolina has done it and had great success with it. Nothing can be ordered that's age restricted online and delivered inside the state. So that would prevent a lot of those issues too. And I mean, and we need to be responsible retailers. And I think Peter was the one that mentioned it also. With the fines, whatever the fines are set at, when that conversation comes up, because I guess it's not on this agenda, I would be in full support for it. We require our stores to scan in all IDs and verify all IDs. Because we don't want minors to get it. We don't think it's the right time for them to be making that type of decision on whether or not they should be using nicotine. So I do support that wholeheartedly. But I think, at the adult level and with this type of product, I think the option should be there for somebody that's of age.
Okay, thank you. Before we go on to the next speaker, we have our Plymouth North High School student that's present also online. I guess one of the things that we would be curious about is, in your observations, does it seem like it's such a small percentage of students that are using these? It's only like less than 2%, or do you think it might be higher?
I've seen like quite a handful of students start reaching towards these pouches instead of like the usual like vape that you'd see in like a student's hands. I do see more like vape than there are pouches. There is like a small percentage of them reaching for pouches, but high school students that are already addicted to nicotine are gonna find their like crave their buzz like no matter like how they like get that form. And I'm seeing like more throughout like time they're reaching for these like pouches rather than the vapes now.
So they're more popular than the vapes, you think, in among the high school students,
I say vapes are still more popular than pouches, but I'm seeing them now like as a junior, like my freshman and sophomore year, I literally haven't even like heard of them or seen them, but this year I'm starting to see them more like start to evolve, but I still think vapes are more popular than the pouches.
Okay, thanks, Madison. I guess we should go on with another member of the in-person audience. Yes, could you come, please?
Hi, my name is Tammy Brody. So I work here in town at a retailer. I understand that we don't want the teens to have them, the high school kids, whatever, but I believe that we're a tourist town as well. And it is up to the establishment not to sell it to them. For example, at my store, we ID anyone, doesn't matter regardless of your age. If two of you came in together, both of you are getting ID'd. One of you don't have an ID, we don't take the sale whatsoever. So I think it's the establishment that would step up and do their part of their job, would reduce the teens getting it. You're hurting your mom and pop stores here in Plymouth and people that work here, that live here. And we all know that not too many people can afford to live in Plymouth and work in Plymouth. Luckily I can, and I still want that to, but if my store started selling cigarettes or tobacco to minors, I wouldn't have a job, because I'm assuming I would be fired immediately. That's what most companies are doing. But in the 5 years I've been there, we've yet to have a violation. I know with the 42 establishments, over 19 of them failed last February. We were not one of them. We got people would come into our store and ask us why, this or that. I'm okay with the flavors being banned, because I think that's what the younger kids are doing. But I just strictly like, you're hurting the stores here, and if the establishments did their part by IDing every single person and not say, oh, I've seen your ID before. We don't, two of us could look alike. So I think it starts with the establishment, put it on them, have them ID. If they get banned, if they get caught, they're gonna pay a fine. After 4 offenses, we already know what happens. So I just hope you guys take that into consideration, and it's the I think it's the establishment's job to actually not sell them to the minors.
Yeah. And thank you. Obviously, the reason we do this is to get a lot of information before we have to make a decision.
I agree, and I agree. I'm glad I could have.
Just out of curiosity, because this came up when we were talking about vapes some years ago. What percentage of your tobacco and nicotine sales do you think at the moment might be pouches? Is it significant?
No, we definitely sell more cigarettes than we sell pouches. The pouches, people that want to quit, they do like maybe a pouch during the day at work, whatever, but most of them that I've talked to, they're either going on a long plane ride and they can't go without a cigarette for 4 or 5 hours, because you mean definitely have those people as well. But I think it's more of the people that are trying to quit, and if it's less, if they're only doing a 3 milligram and not a 8 milligram in a cigarette, I think we're actually helping them in their health by not giving them as much tobacco or nicotine.
Okay, thank you for that. If now we go back to the people that are online with us, is there anyone else that wishes to address or give us some information that we can utilize as we go through the decision-making process? If there is, all you have to do is go down to the bottom of your screen and you'll see a little thing that says react. If you press that, you'll see that you can raise an orange colored hand, which appears next to your name on our screen, so we know that you would like to be recognized. So, does anyone online care to address anything further? Seeing none, if you change your mind, I'll be watching the screen for the orange hands. Is there anybody else in the audience in person that would wish to talk about this?
Could I make one more comment to say
Yes.
that, you know, it is being available only with PRPs, it is less than, 0.5% of our business. And I think most of the retailers would tell you that, it's a very small percentage. But in this economy, everything counts. And so, and we're not looking to lose another legal item that we're selling to adults. So that's all I'd like to
Okay,
add.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a very
Thank
good
you,
evening.
information.
Thank you.
Jay Pierce has his hand raised again.
Okay. Pierce, you want to?
Sorry, I
say
just,
something?
on the business part of it, so Energy North operates 72 locations across 3 states. And I'm actually the category manager for tobacco. And I can tell you, for other tobacco products, so everything aside from cigarettes, nicotine pouches makes up 70% of the business. For overall tobacco in total, it makes up about 35% of the business. And just to give you some small statistics, over the past 2 years, cigarette sales have been declining anywhere between 11 to 15%. And we're seeing that shift to the growth in nicotine pouches. So you do see that swing. So cigarette sales are declining drastically. I mean, last year, I think as an industry in this New England market, we were down 13% in cigarette sales. So you're seeing that shift and it's shifting into nicotine pouches. Again, you're removing the carcinogens, which is a huge thing, but it does make up a huge portion of the business. It seemed like the numbers seem small, and I deal with those numbers on a daily basis. It does make up a good portion of the business, and we're seeing that swing from cigarettes into nicotine pouches as customers transition to, that less harmful option, we'll call it.
It's not only less harmful probably for the person using the pouches.
But everybody around them too.
Unlike cigarettes or even vapes.
Yeah.
It offers pretty good protection against secondhand inhalation.
Yeah.
And I personally know of at least several people who actually died of lung cancer who never smoked a cigarette in their lives, but lived with someone who smoked.
Yep. Anytime you're inhaling that smoke, yep, you're suffering the effects of it, unfortunately.
So if there's anyone else that wishes to speak, please let us know. Hearing none, seeing none. Unless board members have something that they wish to add, we'll move on to the next item of business.
No, I mean, when we, so I guess procedurally, will we decide are we going to discuss what we want to see in the regulations, or will that
No,
happen at a
that
different
will
meeting?
come at a different meeting,
Okay, then I'm good, I can talk later.
okay? Anything, Lorenzo, about the things you've heard?
No, I'll just, no question, but a comment to the folks that spoke on this topic. I just wanted to thank them. From my perspective, it's always good to get both sides of the discussion. And I really appreciate that. So thank you all for those who spoke.
Okay.
I don't have anything.
I'm sorry, I wanted to, so one of the biggest things that we talk about is making sure that kids don't get this. And when we do our underage, sales, to see if anybody, Tim brought up 19 out of 42 people sold, so when stores, and that's, we send somebody out once a year, and then when you have that happen and you have 19, it's concerning. So I wish, I hope that the businesses hear that and work harder to make sure that they aren't. Because if it was 0 out of 43, it would be, an easy thing to say, oh, nobody is, but half of the retailers were caught once selling to minors. So that to me is concerning. That being said, I think the FDA at the 6% is for me to hear that it says, oh, well, the FDA approves it up to 6%. That to me is like a little bit of more of a stamp of approval when it comes to the safety of these.
Okay. Thanks, Amy. Just the other thing on that model regulation that we didn't touch on is the generational tobacco ban,
Yes,
which is also there, but we previously thought about that.
I
And we voted that we weren't going at this time going to entertain that.
I appreciate this board for bringing up every topic around public health to discuss and determine whether or not it's something that we think is good for this town. And to your point, this board had talked about nicotine-free generation and had decided not to pursue it at this point.
Yes.
I have a question about, I mean, I guess my concern about living in the 6 is who's to stop someone from putting 2 in their mouth?
Nobody,
Right, so
That's
I think
their
that makes no sense.
but that's their free will.
Yeah,
To me,
but free will should also be
To
the
me-
option to buy it as an
truly,
adult.
truly, the FDA approval for 6 milligrams, that is what's speaking to me. If somebody that's 26 years old wants to stick 10 of them in their face, that's up to them. But for me to say, all right, well, 6 is approved, then that to me is my thought process. But I agree, if somebody buys 9, you can't cut it in half and have 4 and a half.
Yeah.
So that's just where I'm at for that.
May I, correct?
Oh, please.
I looked into the Zin thing a little bit further, and this is from the announcement. So it's, while today their actions permit the tobacco products to be legally marketed up to 6 for 21 and older, it does not mean that they're safe, nor are they approved. So they're not a safe tobacco product. You should not use tobacco products. An adult who do not use tobacco products should not start. So this is really about like being able to advertise it, and they say here that they're really monitoring closely and that it's targeted to adults 21 and older, and that they should have implement measures like on mass marketing and radio, that the actors and models are no younger than 35 or styled to appear younger than 35 or any youth-oriented thing. So I just wanted to correct the FDA approved thing.
So the FDA didn't approve anything?
It's approved or authorized for marketing. Those up to 6.
Oh,
So they're
interesting.
authorized for
Thank
marketing.
you.
That's-
Thank you. And then, sorry, one other thing, when I was reading everything, it seemed like the youth use was all around flavored.
Yeah.
So that was another
Same with
thing.
theirs.
Same with vapes.
So the only reason I can think of that I've noticed in doing online research about this, why people wouldn't necessarily put more than one pouch in their mouths at the same time, is that apparently when you first do that, you get this burning sensation. Not quite sure why, but apparently it's not entirely a pleasant experience until the nicotine actually gets into your bloodstream, at which point it interacts with one of the nicotinic receptors, which is the reward receptor, and then it starts to give you a positive feedback. But
That's interesting.
it's the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor.
Is that the same with nicotine gum?
Nicotine gum, I don't think probably has the burning sensation. And I assume that they probably, in gum, somebody else may know this, in gum, there may be a lesser amount of nicotine,
It's 4 milligrams.
4 milligrams.
Mhm.
So 2 pieces of gum is already over.
Mhm.
And they're teeny tiny piece, they like the chocolate gum,
Yeah.
very tiny, so.
But it's a matter of, are they doing this for how long? Is it all day? Is it as soon as the positive feelings go away, they do it again? Who knows?
Well, is the board trying to limit youth from using it or everyone from using it? I guess would be my
Yeah,
question.
well, that's up to the board to decide. Um,
But I think it would be interesting
Yeah,
for
I
folks to hear
say
that.
youth, yeah, for me, it's youth, and like I was saying that almost half the retailers sold to youth in a year, that's concerning to me.
yeah, I think the violations for underage sales dropped quite a bit in the last round of inspections. So I think that the fines and the penalties and the constant, reminders are starting to make some difference.
Well, I think someone losing their license made a big difference
Mhm.
because people even mentioned that this evening.
Mhm.
I think that made a big, for sure.
Doesn't happen in all towns, but we have an obligation to protect the people that live here in Plymouth. So that's what we do.
Mhm.
Anything else? Okay, and in that case, I need a member of the board to make a motion to close the public forum.
I'll make a motion to close the public forum.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll take the poll. Lorenzo, motion made, seconded to close the public forum and continue with the rest of the meeting. Yes or no?
Yes,
Meg,
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Myself, yes. So there will be more about this. We will take it back up as we go through individual suggested changes that the state sent us in the model regulation. But we'll certainly consider everything that we heard tonight as well, as we try to decide what's the best thing to do for the people of Plymouth in general. So thank you for those of you who were here that came for that purpose. The next item on our agenda is Plymouth Town Meeting's Article 12, Public Health and Safety Discussion and Possible Vote. Amy was going to actually present this.
Okay, as we know, the select board 3-2 voted to support Article 12 to go to town meeting, so it'll be voted on town meeting. Is it okay if I read this?
You may read
Okay,
it.
so this is the proposed Board of Health opinion on Article 12. As into the board members, whatever input you'd like. The Plymouth Board of Health recognizes firearm violence as a public health crisis as declared by the US Surgeon General Vivek Murthy in June of 2024. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, more than 48,000 firearm-related deaths in the United States occurred in 2022, and more people suffered non-fatal firearm-related injuries than died. The public health crisis of gun violence is not inevitable. It can be prevented through a comprehensive public health approach, including research, legislation, education, and intervention, keeping families and communities safe. In July of 2024, Governor Maura Healey signed into law an act modernizing firearm laws, H4885, continuing Massachusetts' record of strong gun safety legislation. This legislation addresses untraceable ghost guns and 3D printed guns, enhances the red flag law, further protects safety in public spaces, and increases violence prevention programming in the state. Within H 4885, municipal government administrative buildings are identified as prohibited areas to possess a firearm, yet it allows for municipalities to vote to exclude its administrative buildings from being a prohibited area. Plymouth Town Meeting Article 12, exclusion of administrative buildings and properties as prohibited areas under Chapter 135 and Act Modernizing Firearm Laws, is a vote to remove municipal administrative buildings and town property from being defined as prohibited areas, and if passed at town meeting, would allow for the possession of a firearm, loaded or unloaded, in town buildings and on town property. The Board of Health opposes the removal of municipal administrative buildings in town property as prohibited areas as identified in an Act Modernizing Firearm Laws. Public health research consistently demonstrates harmful effects of carrying firearms in public. According to the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health Center for Gun Violence Solutions, regulation of public carry of firearms is a clear solution for reducing gun violence. On their website, Regulation of Public Carry of Firearms, Center for Gun Violence Solutions, several studies highlight this. These are direct quotes, and then cited. Carrying firearms in public also increases the risk for violence by escalating minor arguments and increasing the chances that a confrontation will become lethal. Research has found that even the mere presence of a firearm increases aggressive thoughts and actions. Some believe that carrying a firearm will act as a deterrent and help prevent conflicts or minimize harm. While there are specific examples where this was true, there are many more cases where firearm carrying escalates conflict and leads to firearm injury or death. In aggregate, research shows firearm carrying increases levels of violent crime. Lax public carry laws, which allow individuals to carry firearms in public places with little oversight, are linked to increases in firearm homicides and assaults. Similarly, states with permissive firearm laws have higher rates of mass shootings. Additionally, through extensive research on gun policies across the country and scoring every state on the strength of its laws and comparing it with its rate of gun violence, the organization Every Town for Gun Safety has shown that states with strong laws see less gun violence. According to their records and supported by data from the Pew Research Center, Massachusetts has among the strongest gun laws in the country and the lowest rate of gun deaths. The ongoing crisis of gun violence is preventable. We must address this crisis through a public health approach, pushing for equitable, evidence-based gun violence solution, including identifying prohibited areas within our communities where guns should not be. Therefore, the Board of Health supports a no vote on Plymouth Town Meeting Article 12, exclusion of administrative buildings and properties as prohibited areas under Chapter 135 and Act Modernizing Firearms.
Thank you, Amy, for doing all that. Yes, question I have is administrative or municipal buildings. So for instance, a municipal building would include the library.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, so does that mean that this would apply to the library as well? My initial reading was that it would.
Well, a municipal administrative, oh, so yeah. I mean, within the it says the municipal government administrative buildings are identified as prohibited areas.
Yeah, it's not really clear exactly which buildings would be included in that category. To me.
So basically, but if the vote was, if town meeting chooses to not accept this opting out, whatever the state law says would apply to Plymouth.
Yes.
So that is what I'm asking the board if they would like to support this as a no vote towards this opting out. And then just Plymouth would be part of the state law.
Okay, so given that little bit of time to think about it, I hope. Because this was actually added to the agenda at the last moment possible. Because Amy called and asked me if this was possible to get onto the agenda, and we still had, I guess, a little bit of time to do it.
Yeah, well, the vote came last week,
Yeah.
and then the town meeting is in less than a month.
Did anyone else have a conversation besides the two of you?
That's it.
No.
And that wasn't sent to anybody?
Nope.
Okay.
I sent this to Barry.
And that was it. The text of this.
Yes.
I believe we sent out to the Board of Health members under blind copy with the warning that this was a agenda item not to be discussed outside of our open meeting. So they saw it so that they could read it, because otherwise, how could you even discuss it without knowing what's in it? So I think that was a legal thing to do. So I guess it's an awkward sort of thing to think about. I think the first thing to do would be to ask the Board of Health members what their feelings about this would be. Lorenzo, what would you think?
Did we have, thank you, Dr. Potvin, do we have folks that are gonna make public comment on this particular agenda item? Are you opening?
There's a lot of people present in person, and there are some people present online, so if we have time, we'll entertain as many of the public comments as we can.
Okay, so thank you for that clarification. Yeah, no, I think that there's, you know, it's a polarizing thing, right? Second Amendment rights and then public safety. Thank you, Amy, for bringing up this topic and giving us the science behind it. That, you know, gun laws or restrictions on gun laws on guns is has an association with safer communities, right? And then on my side, the way that I read it is that, you know, there's a bit of common sense that kind of goes with this, right? Not in terms of common sense, restricting at the state level, they want to restrict having license to carry in public buildings. It's already done for school properties, right? That's my understanding. That's a state law that makes sense, right? Who wants to bring, if you're licensed to carry in Massachusetts, which is a license to have, and you have to go through that, and you have to get certified, and you have to go to class, and you have to have that. But it makes sense not to bring it to school properties and things like that. When you start thinking about municipal buildings and public buildings, and I think to your point, Barry, about the library, you know, it's not totally clear. I want to say also about the parks. I mean, when you think about municipal areas, trails that we have in municipal areas, you know, that the Plymouth owns, and the parks, I would not, from a common sense perspective, want that kind of having someone with, you know, I would want some restrictions around that, because it's safer for the children in parks and things like that. So I think, you know, given the short runway that we had to look at this, and given that town meeting is next month, I think it's appropriate for the Board of Health to come up with a position and not be silent on this public health perspective, right? And you know, public health isn't just about vaccines and immunizations and things like that. It's also health-related social needs. You know, it's your environment, the anxiety of that, right, and things like that. So it's not just this topic is relevant to that area. And you know, having said that, you know, I'm supportive of the direction that Amy has brought this forth, and we'll vote in that manner.
Yeah, thank you, Lorenzo. Meg, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I totally agree with Lorenzo, and thank you for putting that together. It is a big public health topic. So I'm glad to see us addressing it. I'm not a gun person, so I don't always think about these things, but I'm struggling like backing up from the image of me like going into the library with my children and just thinking that there are people walking around, carrying. It does make me uncomfortable, and that's my own personal thing. But I also support the direction that we're going in.
And speaking for myself, I agree. I feel that, you know, the argument that was made, to actually, opt out of the state law is probably ill-advised. The chief of police in Plymouth during the select board meeting stated that there are 8,000 gun owners or people who carry permits for concealed carry in the town of Plymouth. But that means that at least 53,000 people do not.
Yeah, how many of those people work in a municipal building?
Yeah, I mean, I understand, certainly, Karen and I have talked about our experiences over the years, especially during the pandemic. And there were, and Margaret saw this too, I'm sure, on a first-hand basis. Because the Board of Health was struggling to do everything we could to protect the public from the COVID pandemic. We got a lot of blowback, and some of the blowback was extremely offensive and threatening. And, a lot of really nasty things were floating back and forth. I wasn't in the office as Karen and Margaret were, but I would be willing to bet you that people came into the office and were equally abusive at the very least. Even though it really was a decision being made by the Board of Health and not by the.
I think a bigger thing that you should be talking about perhaps would be safety inside of our buildings.
Well,
right now, there's nothing on the front line, including if this does not pass a town meeting, then there's still, or if say it does pass a town meeting and people can carry guns inside our municipal buildings, there's no one to regulate that. There is no one to regulate either way. Are you going to come to the municipal building and ask people, are you gonna put in, and
Yeah,
we have to put in metal detectors before someone walked into any one of our buildings? And I don't know if that's going to happen either way.
I don't think it would, because, it was discussed at the select board meeting. I'm sure you listened to it as I did.
Of course I did.
And, first of all, I think chief of police was asked, are there any other towns in the Commonwealth that have actually opted out? And he said at the moment, there's just one, Rochester, right? So the rest of the towns, although this has been happening for a little while now, apparently have not chosen to opt out. Doesn't mean they won't. But at least at the moment they haven't. As far as, my experience has been, I've been coming to town hall ever since I arrived in Plymouth. First just to sit in on the Board of Health meetings and then to become a member. And I've never felt threatened here, but then as
Okay.
I don't work here, I work for the town of.
You don't work here, you are not here Monday through Friday, at night, during the day,
I can
on
say
the
that I
weekends,
do this job in a different town hall.
in a different town
In a
hall, in a
different
different
town hall,
place,
in
in
a
a much
different
smaller
place.
town with much fewer people.
But I will say this. If this opt-out goes through, I will feel less safe coming to town hall, not more.
But it.
And I may
if it goes
decide I
through,
want to-
Nothing changes, nothing would change, people who are carrying now anyway. So if it passed, those same people are still gonna carry.
But somebody else who works here may be carrying.
Absolutely,
Here's what other people want to say.
Yes. for sure.
absolutely. People are carrying this building.
Well, that makes me feel less safe. And I won't,
And that's not gonna change.
before I came here, I was living because of work requirements in the New York, New Jersey area. I had loaded handguns pointed at me twice, once in Manhattan and once in New Jersey. The one in New Jersey, the guy was at a garage where I left my car to be serviced. I walked in, there was nobody in sight. I said, is anybody here? He pops up from behind the counter with a huge handgun aimed at my face.
I can.
And then he started laughing.
When I think about guns in Plymouth, I go to that road rage where somebody had a gun in the car and he was illegally carrying the gun until he took it out and killed somebody.
Illegally carrying the gun.
I thought he was a,
No,
No,
So, we owe it to the people who took the time to come here to let them speak if they wish to. So again, we'll alternate between people who are present and people who are present only online. Does anyone here in person wish to say anything about this? By the way, we've gotten at least, my last count was about 8 letters urging the Board of Health to take a stand on this.
there was one with a petition of 25 people that signed it.
Yes. And I believe it was from,
It was First Parish.
First
Social
Parish
Action
Church, yes.
Committee.
So just, would anybody like to speak? Yes, please, just come forward. Again, please identify who you are, and if you have an affiliation, let us know.
My name is Jenny Healy. I'm a precinct 3 resident here in Plymouth. And I just want to say that I stand 100% behind this board banning Article 12. I think I would feel less safe in public spaces. And I think that if we want to give gun owners in our town the credit of having gone through all of the regulations that they had to have guns, and they're responsible gun owners, then I think that we need to trust that they're going to, if there's a new rule, that they're gonna obey the rule. And if they're not gonna obey the rule, then, there's always gonna be those people, but we should not have a rule because some people might not obey it. In terms of monitoring that, I don't know what that would look like, but I also don't think that that should stand in the way of us at least putting that in place, so that that word gets out and so that the responsible gun owners in Plymouth can follow the law as it's stated. And thank you, Amy, for that presentation. That was excellent. It was full of really great information, very factual, very research based, and I appreciate that. Thank you all for considering this.
Thank you. Is there anyone online that would like to speak? You can raise your little orange hand.
This is hand raised.
Oh, Peter.
Peter.
Am I on?
Yes,
I'm Peter Neville. I'm a precinct 10 town meeting member. And I am very much in favor of not supporting Article 12. And I would encourage the Board of Health to consider adding some language to this article, which specifically identifies those buildings or those areas where firearms are just not permitted, whether or not you have a license to carry. I think that Article 12's suggestion to opt out from administrative buildings is vague. So I encourage the Board of Health to not opt out and to offer more clarifying language that identifies buildings and areas where you're not allowed to bring a firearm.
and
Thank you.
I should clarify on what the Board of Health can and cannot do.
Right, right.
We obviously cannot ban anything. Although, in terms of the firearms, it's a decision to be made by the town meeting. Prior to the town meeting, this warrant article went before the select board, and this evening down in the Great Hall, at the end of this meeting, Advisory and Finance is going to go through the same process. So at 7 o'clock, there will be people down there, and they will also entertain public comment about that before Advisory and Finance. Should Advisory and Finance decide to actually support it, then, as I understand it, it would go before the town meeting, which I believe is scheduled for April 5th. And if anyone wishes to speak about this at the town meeting, then I believe you first have to get permission from the town moderator.
you do.
Steve Trifletti. So you would have to write to Steve Trifletti and tell him that you wish to speak about warrant Article 12, during the town meeting.
And town meeting members would have preference
Yeah.
over non-town meeting members, so.
So that's the way it works. The Board of Health can express its opinion, can express in the terms of a resolution whether or not we support or do not support the effort to opt out. That's all we can do. That's, that's the extent of our ability to actually intervene in this process in any way. We can't change the definition of what is a municipal building. Or what is an administrative building, if that was a, lack of clarity that was involved there. That's up to the people who actually put forth the petition in the form of a warrant article. They would have to amend their warrant article, I believe, unless there's some other legal way to do that during town meeting. I assume any town meeting.
Yeah, it was
could
written.
recommend it.
The act is written. Yeah, the act will be presented as written at this point.
And then is it subject to any kind of amendment before it's voted on?
A town meeting member can request an amendment prior to April 5th.
Mhm. And that would have to also go before town meeting.
Yes.
So it's a complicated process.
Any amendment is voted on first. And then, once the amendment is voted on, then either the main motion changes or the main motion stays the same, and then the main motion will be voted on.
It's also been my experience, which I found out going to a town meeting, that as this process proceeds during the town meeting's discussion of each warrant article, any town meeting member can make a motion to close the discussion.
That's called closing the debate.
Yeah.
You can move the motion, move the question, and then the debate, then we still vote. Town meeting will still vote on whether or not to close the debate, but if the vote is to close debate, then it's not. It's done, and then we'll call for the vote.
But so I just want to clarify, the Board of Health opinion is to not opt out. So the Board of Health is,
Well, if we vote to send.
I'm sorry, I'm saying the written opinion right now, yes, you're right, of course, if the board decided to do that. But I do think it's interesting that public health, when we talk about tobacco regulations or styrofoam or NIPS, we're told, go with the state. When the state does it, you go with the state. Now the state does this and the town, and now there's this opt-out option.
Yeah. I mean, I'm grateful to be a resident and I grew up in Massachusetts. I'm grateful to be back in Massachusetts finally. Because this is, without a doubt, one of the safest states to live in. I don't think anybody would debate that. It is also apparently true that gun violence is a major contributing factor to deaths in younger people. And I see Devin is nodding yes.
Through the chair, may I ask, when you talk about the gun violence, do they break down how much of that is between legal license to carry holders versus those that get guns illegally? Do they break down that statistic? Maybe Devin's the person.
I've never seen that. Have you seen that, Devin?
I don't know. I was gonna check the town profile for gun violence numbers in Plymouth. But I think it was just aggregated numbers, but let me check.
I mean, the other thing that, is pretty obvious to a lot of people is that alcohol consumption to excess is also a risk factor for people, deciding that if they happen to be carrying a firearm, that it's one of the things that they might resort to if they're settling an argument with somebody and it gets heated. It happens during road rage, obviously in a lot of places. The other thing that's really troubling to us as a Board of Health is that people have access to guns in the homes, even if someone put the guns there for personal protection, and don't intend to necessarily use them if they don't find a necessity to have to. But if they don't lock them up properly and secure them in gun safes or something, we've seen many occasions when children or school-age children get a hold of them and somehow or other, get into a school environment and actually cause mayhem. And mental health issues are involved in that, behavioral health issues are involved in that. But this seems to happen and it's always a tragedy. And it's enough to make you sit there and cry when you watch that kind of thing happening. It doesn't happen in Europe. Hardly ever. Because they have even stricter gun regulations than we do here in the United States, in the town of in the state of Massachusetts. I think mostly guns are used in other countries for hunting, and they're probably restricted to the hunting lodges, and actually in use during hunting. And, you know, in many cases, the personal ownership of guns is not legal. Period. Outside of storing them in a gun, you know, in a gun lodge, which is used for that purpose. So anyway, if there's anything else anybody wishes to say, even online, haven't actually touched base with Madison about this from the perspective of students, younger people who are, you know, obviously at risk also.
Yeah, I think for students, even just like last week in Plymouth North, like our high school, we had like an Atlas drill where we like practiced what would happen if there was ever like an invader in our school with like a weapon, and we learned like how we had to, like, if we were trying to escape, we'd have to keep our hands up so we'd know like that we didn't have a weapon on us, and we'd have to like, we practiced boarding up the doors and stuff like that. And I feel like being in a building that I'm told is like safe, and like I'm at school, like, and I go there for like the majority of like the beginning of my life, like I'm there Monday through Friday from 7 to 2. It's like, it's kind of like stress inducing to know like we have to practice these things for like the rare occasion that someone would come in like with a weapon. But I think like it would add a little bit of like safety if it was like a foundation in our town, knowing like in these buildings that are like regulated by our town that guns wouldn't be allowed anymore.
Yeah, by law, it doesn't mean we can necessarily enforce it.
Well,
But there are other ways to do this.
that's my big question, is even if Article 12 passes or doesn't pass, what does that change here?
Well, are there other ways to provide more protection to those who work here?
You'd have to do metal detectors, you'd have to have our bulletproof glass.
So at schools, they're not allowed. But
No.
there's no metal.
You get buzzed in.
Yeah.
Someone buzzes you in before you enter that building.
Yes.
Here, there are 2 openings to this building constantly, right now. Anyone who wanted to could walk into this building because we have meetings at night. So anyone could walk into this building right now, and there's nothing to stop anyone.
Well, I think to Jenny's point, I don't think that that should be a deterrent for opting out.
Yes, would you like to speak?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Kara, Jen is my sister, my parents and my mother-in-law are in the audience and friends, and I thank you, Amy, for that letter. My point of view is that we've been going to meetings. If this was not a gun-free facility, I am afraid that it would decrease public involvement, it would make people scared to come to town hall to participate. And I think seeing as the amount of participation that I've seen at select board and all that, is pretty low in person. So I would hate to do something that decreases that. And so I support that.
Thank you. Yes, please.
My name is Phyllis King. I'm a resident of Plymouth, and I'm also a member of the Grandmothers Against Gun Violence. And I would feel more uncomfortable. I understand what you're saying, but I would feel more uncomfortable knowing that people could come into a building that I come to perform business. And then who knows what could happen.
But they can, that's what I think we're all forgetting. Currently, right now, as we speak, it's, people can come into this building and other municipal buildings.
Oh, because there is.
If they have a license to carry, they can come in with a gun. So to your point too about going to meetings, it's happening right now. People could still come into this building carrying a gun as we speak.
Physically.
That's not legal. If you have a license to carry, yes, you can. So that's, I guess, if I love your group, absolutely love your group. But I think what your group does is exactly what people should do, you talk about safety, you talk about precautions, you talk about people can do in their own homes. You talk about,
And we're not stopping people from using
education,
guns,
right.
just have a gun safe, make
Right.
sure that there's not any access to
Absolutely,
children.
yep, and I enjoy listening to you every single time that you speak anywhere, and that is 100% true. And that's exactly what I think what other people are saying that is important for us to think about as are those factors. But I don't want anyone to get the misconception that as we speak right now, right now, right this second, someone could legally be carrying a firearm in this building. Are you all feeling less safe now than you did 5 seconds ago?
But because it's on the book.
Because you did it now.
No, we did.
Because, yeah, so I mean, it's just, it's an interesting concept. Because there's a chance to opt out and keep it the way that it is, or to not opt out, which means that you can't have a gun in a municipal building. My point, being probably the only person who works in this building. Or a park. Is how would we go about doing that? And I think it's one thing to say, yes, let's make a resolution and let's make a statement as the Board of Health. I think it's part of that responsibility, however, is to say, how would we enforce that? How would we implement that? What would we do moving forward to make sure that that does happen? How are we gonna continue to protect public health of the people who work in this building? That's what I think.
But to say it's okay is what I mean,
No, I'm
you're
not saying
absolutely
make it
right,
okay.
and
I'm saying that
that
this-
was a point that I didn't
Yeah.
even think of tonight.
Yeah.
That if, and we're here frequently, I mean, we work with the town clerk for the voting, you know, so we're here all the time. And I guess that is a very good point, but it's just uncomfortable to me to have somebody say that you can walk into a public. The other question I have is what buildings comprise public?
Yeah, that we can't answer that because we don't really understand it.
And I also wanted to thank Amy for her letter. It's wonderful.
From my perspective, you know, just a couple of quick words about that. Taking the worst case scenario, supposing somebody here actually does have a handgun. And really was upset that the Board of Health was even talking about this. Well, supposing this actually passed town meeting, and therefore I can walk in here and also carry a handgun if I'm licensed to do so. What's gonna happen? Well, I'm not gonna pull a handgun out of the blue. I would try to do that perhaps if somebody pulled a handgun out from having walked into the building, into the room, or from the audience.
Fair.
Would I have any chance whatever to eliminate the threat? No, I would not.
I just want to bring back up the studies in what they say, you know, public health studies from Johns Hopkins. You know, carrying firearms in public also increases the risk for violence by escalating minor arguments and increasing the chances that a confrontation will become lethal. Research has found that even merely presence of a firearm increases aggressive thoughts and actions. Some believe that carrying a firearm will act as a deterrent to help prevent conflicts or minimize harm. While there are specific examples where this is true, there are many more where firearm carrying escalates conflicts and leads to firearm injury or death. Lax public carry laws which allow individuals to carry firearms in public places with little oversight are linked to increases in firearm homicides and in assaults.
And how many instances have we had in this town hall?
That
would be zero.
So.
That would be zero.
So
Let me point out.
My issue is that we're getting emotional and our emotions are taking over. And what I'm reading is that from the studies, it shows that reducing access to reducing the available places you can bring a gun. I know people are gonna be bad actors. I know people aren't gonna do what they're always told. But I mean, to the point of you buzz somebody into the school, well, that person can have a gun in their bag. You know, so there's things that people need I'm afraid that we're getting caught in emotion when we look at the study, when we look at the public health approaches. And when we think about it, I would ask this board to not support that, if that's how this board feels. And from what you had said earlier, that's how this board feels that this is that to oppose Article 12 for town meeting. As an opinion,
I
as an
also would
opinion.
point out that all federal buildings. You cannot enter federal buildings with any kind of handgun, and there is enforcement when you try to get in. There are people there that run metal detectors. But there's a new kind of gun, remember, that doesn't necessarily have metal.
To this point, we are not, it's the fact that it is a state law, there are 351 towns that are dealing with this. We're not, this is 351 towns that will all be in the same place, well, minus Rochester, or Plymouth if town meeting votes on it. I mean, we're just forming an opinion.
Right, so someone that had their hand out.
So I want to hear anyone speak on this
Please
issue.
come up here. And then we're gonna have to close the discussion and take a vote. If there's a motion.
So again, my name's Tammy, I'm a town meeting member, I support that people need to do the right thing, but I agree with Karen, if we're not going to put metal detectors at the front door or hire someone to sit at the front door, our taxes are high enough, we know that people aren't going to support that taxes to go up. I agree that, but on the school committee meeting last night, the superintendent and the board members does not even know what this considers for them. They don't know if they're gonna be opt out, or are they still under the law that you can't use? So that's the other big piece that has to be, I know, as well.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so unless someone else has something to say,
Lorenzo's hands up.
Lorenzo, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, if we could move the process, what our next steps are as a board. I'm one of those folks that I have to be at that ANF meeting. Yeah.
Yeah. How well we know, and town meeting too for you. So, would someone like to, at this point, make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that the board accepts this, written opinion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any further quick discussion? We don't have much time left.
Yeah, so I do. So we're the board's going to accept that written opinion, and we're opposing Article 12, recommending to oppose Article 12, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
we can recommend, but that's all we can do.
Yes, this will be our opinion.
Okay, so if there's no further input, I'll just call the roll. Lorenzo, yes or no?
Yes.
And Meg,
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Myself, yes. It's therefore unanimous opinion of the 4 members of the board present, that they want to go on record opposing the opt-out. And that we will try to make that known, in various ways to the people who have to make the decision.
Thank you.
And the department will also be issuing a statement as well.
Okay. So the next item, is actually, you'd finished the director's report. right?
Yep,
Okay.
I did.
Chairperson's announcements, after all this, I don't really have too much. I know that Devin, you came up with some rather, troubling information about pertussis.
Yeah, if you'd like me to touch on
If
it.
you can touch on it in just a few minutes.
My name is Devin Donovan. I'm the regional epidemiologist. I serve Plymouth as well as 5 other towns in the area. And I have access to look at the confirmed cases of pertussis, and Massachusetts is in a 10-year high of pertussis, as well as this area has also seen a jump in pertussis, as well as the Cape and Islands, our neighbor. So those cases are going up, and there's a free webinar available, and I can distribute that to the board if you'd like, about pertussis and recommendations for treatment. And we're also seeing a spike in norovirus in Plymouth. I just pulled that one, and the numbers were quite high as well compared to last year. So hopefully, I would say the majority, like well over 70% of the cases are between January and March, but come next year, we can take a look and see what we think about if you guys would like to do some recommendations, but I can show you. I don't know if
We don't really have time.
but yeah,
to go through it.
that's fine.
Just, I assume you don't know how many of the cases involve people who were not vaccinated with DPT?
That's something I can look at. I'm pulling from MIIS, but schools have the best records of that. I only see like what's put in, but I want to take a closer look at that.
And was it true, if I recall correctly, that a majority of those new cases were in the younger age group?
Yeah, primarily the cases affected are 10 to 19, which is when that second booster for pertussis is usually given.
Yeah. So, I'm sure you heard that. So it's something else, Madison, that's another concern for the school age population. There is still opt-outs for vaccinations, right? Both religious and personal in the state of Massachusetts. And that has been, the number of those have increased in a lot of states. I don't know if it's true in Massachusetts or not. Last thing I wanted to bring up was, are there any other agenda items that any board member would like to see included in the upcoming meeting
Well,
that we haven't touched on?
Uh,
No, no.
Is there?
I mean, I would like, I saw the select board meeting last night when this board was described as hyperactive, I think, and I would like that addressed, you know, in the proper channels to figure out why this board was, identified as that versus every other board of health in Massachusetts or,
No, okay.
so.
I mean, you could
Yeah.
say, you could either, the opposite of that is other boards are not active enough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel that this board oversteps its boundaries at all. I do feel like with what you know, you specifically bring a lot of topics to the public and we discuss them. But that doesn't mean we act on everything. Like we were just talking about the nicotine-free generation or I know, last night, David brought up talking about, the gas stoves. You know, like, we did talk about gas stoves,
Yeah.
that can be a health issue, but I don't think we didn't do anything about it. I just think that was,
As you may recall, David Golden was formerly a member for.
oh, 100%. And I know he was here earlier. I wanted to be able to understand more where that's coming from.
Okay. Understood. The only other thing to touch on is, the next meeting, I believe we agreed previously, would be on the first Wednesday of April, which is, I believe, the 2nd. And I think I checked with everybody online and everybody said. it was
Oh, did we
okay.
say that was good?
Because obviously, we need to notify, you know, septic engineers and other people when they need to come in.
So the only meeting in April will be April 2nd?
Yes, unless we schedule an additional meeting,
Okay,
which at the moment we haven't had to.
okay.
So I'd like to thank everyone for coming.
Thank you.
At this point, I would just ask a member of the board to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Call the roll. Lorenzo, yes or no to adjourn?
Yes, please.
Meg?
Yes.
Yes.
Amy?
thank you.
Myself, yes. The meeting is formally adjourned. Thank you all.